Hi, we're here with Rhiannon Bates from The Risk Factor on this week's Business Spotlight series. How you doing, Rhiannon?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. So if you could start things off and yeah, just let us know a little bit more about who you are, what it is you do, how long you've been doing it for, please.
Okay. I'm the MD of the Risk Factor. We are insurance brokers and we operate mostly for quite complex commercial clients and public sector clients. I've been broking since I was a kid. Family business was broking, so I got dragged in summer holidays, and what was a holiday? We all just worked. Um, so yeah, so I did that, and then I did, I suppose, join properly after uni and get involved with it more seriously from that point. Yeah.
Good stuff. So what was the spark for you to actually get into business for yourself then? Was it something that you always destined to do throughout having been in a family business?
I, I, I guess partly yes. You're around entrepreneurial people, aren't you?
Yeah.
If you grow up in that sort of an environment, so maybe there was a bit of that influence. And I think my first real experience of it was in early 20s when the business that I was working for, the family business, had a bright idea to start a network of insurance brokers. So I was in and around the beginning of that business and involved in it. And it was so exciting and entrepreneurial, and everything was so intense. We ran out of office space. So I was doing the day job at the brokers during the day, and then we ran a night shift up to 10 o'clock at night just to get more time out of the computers and the
Yeah.
space available. Uh, so you could have an idea one day, and then a couple of days later, it's reality, it's out there, everyone's using it, everyone was chipping in. It had a wonderful team feeling, and it was just so exciting. And then it was a success. So I suppose that's the other thing is if your first venture into
Yeah.
that kind of world, you see it be a success, then, of course, it's a bit addictive, isn't it? And that business was floated on AIM, and then we were bought and delisted. And for me, that I think when we were bought by a large kind of national broking firm, the difference between that responsive, exciting world of starting something fresh to all of a sudden every decision had to go through half a dozen committees, and by the time you got answers on it, the opportunity was already gone.
Yeah.
um, that that really showed me, of these two worlds, which one do I want to be in? It's the exciting one for sure.
Fast paced. Excellent. So what's the business journey been like to date then? What would you say for you at the
So,
moment?
so yeah, I did a management buyout on the Risk Factor in 2016. So 2017 was pretty much our first year properly trading in the format that we are now. And I think it was really, it was a small lifestyle business, was that. So everything since then has been about growth. It was set up, and the thing is, with it being a regulated business, there's a huge advantage to buying a business that's already regulated, especially in timescales of getting things moving. So that was a good thing to already have that in place, and from then it's been growth. So we started in 2017. There were three of us, and there's 12 of us now, and so the growth has been, you know fairly rapid. It's not been even across that period. It's the
Yeah.
peaks and troughs, and all those things. But really, it's about being about growing in the right way, and those balances of those peaks and troughs, and where you make the points of bringing more people in versus more clients in, and it's
Yeah.
it's that balancing act, isn't it?
I was going to say no pun intended, but the kind of the risk factor of growing a
Yeah.
business as well as what you do in your business, which I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders in business resonate with when I speak to a lot of them, and yeah, about employing the right people at the right time, and ensuring it's the right thing to do. So, what does the future look like for you at the moment? What do you see as the challenges, opportunities going ahead?
Yeah. So I guess challenges, there's always challenges in the world at large whenever you have anything going on in the world at large, particularly with insurance. It gets very unpredictable, and of course our whole job is about trying to predict risk. So with the kind of organizations we work with, changes in government are always something that makes you think, so what's going to happen, because we work with the public sector so much. So that's always something that the change may be good or bad, but it's change. So you've got to be ready to sort of jump one way or another and respond to whatever comes at you. We know that there's often changes in legislation. So we know there's new regulations coming through on procurement. And there's a change about the way people are looking at ESG in relation to procurement for the public sector, which is good news. And I think the public sector should take more advantage of that. So those changes are certainly underway, but also worldwide, whenever you have a financial crisis, that's tricky. The markets constrict, insurance becomes more expensive, businesses are under more pressure, and it's really hard to help clients. So you end up having to help them make choices sometimes about which insurances they can reduce and get rid of and carry some risk for themselves if it comes to that. And of course, working with the public sector, war is quite a relevant factor. We do a lot of sort of war, political risks, and terrorism related covers. So as the world starts to look like a riskier place to be, that
Yeah.
obviously requires a lot of attention from us.
So one question that springs to mind in terms of the industry that you're in and the experience that you've got, have you become pretty resilient in terms of your leadership style of the business because of the sector that you operate in?
Yeah, I have. I think and learned some lessons along the way. There are certainly, I think one thing that complicates it is, in a sense, is we all work from home and we always have as part of this business so that we can be close to where the clients are. So COVID wasn't something that changed working from home, but the sudden change in risk, particularly with our NHS trust clients and companies who were contracting with the NHS, because we have a lot of clients who are maybe not public sector themselves, but they work with the public sector also. So that meant a really significant increase in workload, trying to help with the new risks that they were taking on and their responses to that situation. And that really was, a case of just having to pretend that there were more than 24 hours in a
Yeah.
day. And I think there were peaks like that were really hard to make sure everyone was okay, everybody was moving forward, trying to make sure people were taking some breaks when you could see that they were creaking a little bit and needed it. That was definitely a challenge. And I think coming out of it, you learn a lot of lessons from it, and you learn to spot things with people. You learn to check in with people more frequently during the day and hear the difference in how they're sounding, the way they're talking about their work life, their home life, and
Yeah.
everything else.
Is that the biggest lesson then, or was there anything else that kind of running your
Uh,
business over the last few years that you've?
Yeah, actually, I suppose
Yeah.
one of those things, because some of those during that time we were because we don't really work on a commission basis. We like to be more transparent, so we work more from sort of to say to people, here is the fee you are paying for broking and the advice that we give you, and all of those types of work, versus this is what you're paying for your insurance.
Yeah.
And that way, we don't have a conflict of interest where we're trying to sell people more and more insurance because we're earning a percentage of it. So that's great. It fits for us ethically. We like the transparency of it, and we feel it gives us a bit of a USP over a lot of certainly the sort of national and global brokers often. But at the same time, if you've set, for example, an annual fee for your services for a client, and then all of a sudden you get something like COVID and your workload for that client doubles or triples,
Sure.
you know, that's a challenge to do on the budget that
Yeah,
you've already agreed with them. So that's something that we've learned is to link that fee back to an hour's cap, so that we don't carry all the risk
yeah,
of the additional workload. Yeah.
that's a good lesson shared. Thank you for that. So, in terms of yourself and what inspires you to do what you do, what do you think that is? What gets you out of bed of a morning?
Um, I love winning, obviously. Who doesn't?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I do, I love winning. What really what really does get to me is the money that public sector spends is really, really important. And procurement in all areas, because it has high barriers to entry,
yeah,
it therefore in a way has lower levels of competition in it, which doesn't always benefit the authority in the end. So for me, adding value and reducing costs, and we have, you know, some wonderful case studies where we have saved incredibly significant amounts of money, and being able to sit there and think, what has that local authority been able to fund with that money instead of spending it on insurance? And that, I really like that. It's sort of my my former boss used to insultingly tell me that I should have been a social worker, and I used to take it as a compliment. And I think that feeds into that side of me that feels like it's you're doing the right thing. I really enjoy that.
that extra additional money that you've saved go into things like social care and
Yeah, yeah.
opportunities
I mean,
for local
and,
care.
and what's a really great opportunity now is that within procurement, having you should be allotting about 10% of the marks, minimum of 10% of the marks to ESG. Being able to translate that into something really practical that does some solid good in the community is a really enjoyable part of what we do, because um, you tailor it very much to the organization you're working with. So I know, you know, we've worked with, for example, some housing facilities that are predominantly for people who are disabled and need additional access changes to those properties. Now, if that's your client base, you're going to have a lot of young carers in there. And so we were able to fund some out of that procurement. We funded some trips for young carers across 3 different sort of
Brilliant.
regions. And you know, it's so nice. It's so nice to know that that's actually something practical, that those kids have had a break. But also, you know, looking forwards on some other pieces of work we're doing for similar clients is looking at an opportunity to create funding for training, because who better than somebody who has accessibility needs
Yeah,
to be able to be trained to go around places and say, this is not accessibility friendly, and actually you can make these changes to make this place much more accessible for people. So we're actually, the next thing we're working on is some funding for training for people to do that, which is great. Yeah.
yeah, great inspiration. Thank you for that. So, if you were to give a piece of advice, either maybe to yourself, if you went back in time at 18, or an 18-year-old person, younger person starting out in business, ask for some advice, what would that be?
I I would, do you know, I think I'd struggle to leave it to one piece. I think the dream big thing is really crucial. There are things that we went for, bidding on them as insurance, that you look at it and you think, should we? Can we? Have we got what it takes? Especially when we were first starting to do this side of things. And we've not only we've done them, we've done them, we've won them, we've done it successfully, we've had really great feedback. So believing in yourself and rising to the expectations, have those really high expectations of yourself and rise to them, deliver them. And then it becomes a snowball and it just keeps going from there.
Love that. That's great. Great advice. Dream big. So then lastly, if there's any latest news, I mean, we've shared a little bit around what you're up to, of even if it's a case of letting us know about your website. So if people want to get in touch, they can find where you are. Feel free to do that now.
Sure. So our website is theriskfactor.com. Nice and easy is what it says on the tin. We also do audits of cover for people. So this is a way that we can say, let us have a look at the cover you've got and let us understand what you do really clearly. And we will just, if there's an issue there, or often people are insuring something twice in different parts of their policy structure, so we can point out gaps and overlaps in cover for them. So we can do audits of cover for people. As I say, we tend to work with quite complex. It doesn't mean big. You don't have to be big to be complicated, but we are able to really offer value for people where it's something complicated they do. It's people doing really interesting things really well, and we can usually find different ways of structuring those covers for them to adapt to the risks they really need to cover, instead of just covering everything as a
Sure.
blanket.
Great stuff. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing all that you have. I wish you
Thank
all
you
the
for
best.
having me.
You're welcome for the future success of the business, Rhiannon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.